I'm Special Ed, and this is Smart Mark. It's a radio show on the Blog Talk Radio Network. We've been picked up also by YouTube and SoundCloud.com. We don't have any subscribers yet on YouTube, but we just started last week, so we're doing pretty good already. Go on the YouTube and put in Special Ed Reports, and you'll get my channel. Or you could put in Special Ed Smart Mark, and my video will come up. It's just audio only, but you'll be able to listen to it now. But remember to subscribe. I know somebody's listening because I've gotten feedback about the show, and I really appreciate it. My dream is to be able to do this show and be able to make enough money to go to a lot of the shows and be able to broadcast about them and do interviews with the wrestlers, the women, and other fans like you. To make a donation, you go www.gofundme.com/Special Ed Smart Mark. What it means that I'm a smart mark is that I know a lot about wrestling because I watch a lot of the shows, and I also go on the internet like you do, and I read a lot of the dirt sheets. Do you know what I did today? Today's Saturday, the 4th of February, 2017, and we're just 1 week removed from the Royal Rumble. But let's move on, because the day after tomorrow, the WWE presents Monday Night Raw at the Motor Center in Portland, Oregon. And today on the show, I don't really have a format. I'll do a lot of things off the cuff. But I made a note about something that we should talk about today, and that is a little bit about Portland wrestling, because when I was a little boy, Portland wrestling was really a big deal and really cool. And I want to talk on the show today about some of the wrestlers really got they got their experience here in Portland before they went on to the WWF or WWE or any of the other big promotions at the time. I also found the complete card for the first show I ever went to, which was on my birthday, October 9th, 1988. Don't do the math on my age, because a lot of people think I'm younger than I am, and that's okay by me. But I went and I found the complete card, and I talked about it yesterday, but I was doing it from memory, and that was a long time ago, and I was right about a lot of it, but I also had forgotten a couple of the matches too, and I think we'll have fun today going over the entire card as I found it on the internet. Whoa, this has really become quite a project, this show. I've done about 5 episodes now. I didn't ring the bell yet, so this hasn't even been official. Now we are officially ready to start. Well, the call-in number, if you're listening live at 10 p.m. Pacific time on Blog Talk Radio, the call-in number is 646-564-9993. And you can push the number 1 to say you want to be on the air and talk wrestling. I love talking wrestling, and that's why I was listening to so many other shows, and I learned how I could do it too. And so can you. If you just go on the Blog Talk Radio, you could do a show too. And let me know if I inspire you together to help each other. I'll listen to your show sometimes, and you can listen to my show. And that's how you really start getting going in the podcast. I think so. Well, I'm still a bit upset with the current way the WWE does their wrestling matches for the live shows. Well, I mean, I talked about it yesterday, and you should go back and listen if you haven't yet. But you can listen to this first. But I talked about how when I was a kid, it was different, that you got the matches ahead of time, weeks in advance. And you had promos, and you were excited about it. But now you don't get that. But just today, I got my printed out ticket. And when I got it, I was told that there was information in the email that went out from the WWE that said the main event, I think they said it was Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens. I mean, really, they wrestle each other a lot anyway. But I'm not as concerned about the main event. I want the whole card. I want to know every match and be ready for it and anticipating it and not just, night of the show surprises. But anyway, it was different when I was a kid. In 1988, I went to my first WWF wrestling show. It was at the Memorial Coliseum in Portland, Oregon. That's where I live. And I found the entire list for the show. Let me see if I can find it again here. This is from the website www.historyofwwe.com/the-of-wwe.com/88.htm. And then I went down until I got to October 9th. And back then, they would have 3 matches, 3 cards a day. On October 9th, 1988, the WWF was at Portland Memorial Coliseum. That's where I went to it. It also was in Modesto, California at Merced College, where they had 3 matches. It looks like they had their Ken Patera versus Hercules. They were strong men, those two. The Powers of Pain versus Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov. They were Russians. And Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. But only 3 matches? Also going on that same October 9th, my birthday, was the WWF at Toronto, Ontario, Canada, the Maple Leaf Gardens. The Maple Leaf, that's a hockey team, I think. It had Gorilla Monsoon, the best of all time, in my opinion, and Sean Mooney on commentary. And they had the Hart Foundation versus Jacques Rougeau and Raymond Rougeau, the Rougeau brothers. It had against Richard Charland, B. Brian Blair versus Iron Mike Sharp, the Blue Blazer against Steve Lombardi. Blue Blazer was Owen Hart. I know a lot about wrestling. and I know it was Owen Hart. It had King Haku against Hillbilly Jim. Whoa. And Bad News Brown versus Coco Beware. Ultimate Warrior versus the Honky Tonk Man. Dino Bravo against the champion Macho Man Randy Savage. That's quite a show. But did you know that that didn't even mean that our show was bad? We had a great show too. The first match that I ever saw live was Jim Powers defeating Sandy Beach. Whoa. That probably is part of what made me a fan for life. Let's ring the bell one more time just to remember. The first ever match I saw was Jim Powers. He was a young stallion. Oh, yeah. On the history of WWE.com. The Red Rooster defeated Jim Brunzell. He was a killer bee, too. Jake the Snake Roberts versus Ravishing Rick Rude. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He was my very favorite at the time. He defeated the Outlaw Ron Bass. The Rockers were Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, and they defeated the Conquistadors. Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig defeated Sam Houston. Now, last night on my show, I said that it was Kurt Hennig was not called Mr. Perfect. Here it says Mr. Perfect. I don't know for sure anymore. Maybe he already was called Mr. Perfect, but I was not familiar with him yet. I just don't think he had been on TV yet. Hulk Hogan defeated the Big Boss Man by disqualification, and after the match, he took the slick hat and put it on his head. It was so good, and then he stood in the ring, and he posed. He flexed, he did the thing with his hand to his ear, and the crowd cheered on that side of the ring. He gave a thumb up, and then he flexed, and he would do a couple of poses, and then go to another corner and point at them. Hey, now I want you to cheer for me, see? And then he'd do it again with the hand to the ear. I'm doing it right now, but I'm not on the camera. And that's how it went all around the ring like that. And the crowd really went wild. The Hulkamania was really something at the Memorial Coliseum. I don't think any reaction tomorrow night, and not tomorrow, but Monday, almost tomorrow, because it's 10:15 p.m. here, but the Monday Night Raw at the Motor Center, I don't think anybody will get nearly the response that Hulk Hogan got in 1988. I don't care if Steve Austin comes out and is joined by Daniel Bryan and joined by the Bobby DeBuane Heenan, or joined by the Bruno Sammartino or something. I don't think anybody will get the reaction Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior would get when they came to Portland. It was really special. Okay, well, that was the first show I ever went to. I thought it would be fun to look at one particular wrestler every so often on my show and read about him on the Wikipedia page. This particular wrestler tonight is Ravishing Rick Rude. His real name was Richard Irwin Rude. I knew that he was from Minnesota. In fact, the school he went to, the high school in Robbinsdale, it produced a lot of the wrestlers. Ivan Koloff and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig and Tom Zink, the excellent execution, Gorilla Monsoon called him once. And there were others too, like Barry Darsow, who was Smash, and John Nord, who was the Berserker, or Nord the Barbarian. Wow, that must be the most successful wrestling school for pro wrestlers of all time. And I don't know if maybe Kurt Hennig's father, Larry Hennig, had something to do with that because he was already into wrestling. Maybe he helped inspire the others. I don't know. We won't be able to ask some of them, but it would be interesting to hear from others. And if I get enough donations, I'll try to interview John Nord and also Barry Darsow. It says here on the Wikipedia that Robbinsdale High School also had Brady Boone. He was another wrestler from the 80s. I'm clicking on his page now. He died in 1998 at the age 40. I didn't even know he was Battle Cat. Battle Cat was in 1990, and he only was on TV a couple of times. And I remember that they made a comment because they said he would be on one week and then he wasn't. They said that something about that the WWF wasn't for everybody or something, that someone cut out for it, and I think that was pretty low blow. But he was from Oregon City, Oregon is the point. But he was also from Robbinsdale, Minnesota. But he was in Oregon, too. So that is a good way to segue to tonight, which is Portland Wrestling. But before we do that, let me look at the Wikipedia page for Rick Rude real quick. He died on April 20th, 1999 at age 40 also, the same age that Brady Boone died at. I encourage you to do your own research on the passing of Rick Rude and anything that may be too... The topic might not be suitable for this show. I put down that this is a PG show, and if there was a syringe found in a part of his body, that's not something we should talk about on here. Let's stick to the positives. He was really good wrestler, and he should have been a champion more than he was. He also should be in the Hall of Fame, and some people think he will be this year. That's why I wanted to highlight him. He was married to his wife, Michelle, in 1988. And the couple was together until he died in 1999. He had 3 children together. One of his sons died on September 3rd, 2016, in a motorcycle accident at age 19. Bret Hart stated that Rude was a devoted family man who never took his wedding ring off even during matches. He covered it up with tape. And Bret Hart also said Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig were 2 of the most greatest technical wrestlers of the era. I knew that just watching it. But thanks, Bret Hart, Captain Obvious. I think it's interesting that his gimmick was that he would bring girls in the ring and kiss them, and yet he was married. Oh boy, I can't wait to see Bailey on Monday night. I found a teddy bear. It said on it, "Marry me, Bailey." But even though I have Amazon Prime, get it on time. So I'll have to get it for the next time Monday night while I come to Portland, Oregon. It's too early for proposals anyway. I just want a hug. On to other news. I promised you we would talk a little bit about Portland wrestling, and I think it is your duty as a wrestling fan to support the independent wrestling in your area and also the other independents around the country. Don't worry so much about that stuff outside of the country. We should focus on America first and also on your local wrestling first. So I encourage you to try to find local wrestling in your community. One thing you might try to do is go on the YouTube or on the Google and type in your city and wrestling, pro wrestling or independent wrestling, and see what you might find. My city of Portland, Oregon has several promotions, and I've been to some of them too. And yeah, it takes a little getting used to it. You might not know some of the wrestlers, but let me tell you something about a promotion called Portland Wrestling back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and early 90s, and even before the 60s, probably the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s too. Don Owen was the promoter. Now, some of the wrestlers that wrestled in Portland, Oregon before they became stars that you've heard of. Are you ready for this? I might ring the bell a few times during this segment. And thank you for the feedback out there that my bell was too loud for a while. That really helped me learn. The first name on my list is Curt Hennig. Whoa, this was before he was Mr. Perfect. The next one is Matt Bourne. He was a second-generation wrestler, too, like Curt Hennig was for Larry Hennig. Matt Bourne was the son of Tough Tony Bourne. And Matt Bourne wrestled at the very first WrestleMania against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Whoa. Matt Bourne was also the original Doink the Clown. Next, I put on my list Rowdy Roddy Piper. It would have been more appropriate to leave him for last, but I didn't do that, and that's okay. Rowdy Roddy Piper was also at WrestleMania 1, but he was in the main event. He teamed with Paul Orndorff against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Well, Roddy Piper was really something else in Portland wrestling for a long time, and he lived in Milwaukee, Oregon, too. 3 of those have passed away. Rest their souls. Next up is Playboy Buddy Rose. He was at WrestleMania 1 also, but I bet you couldn't spot him. He was in the very first match against Tito Santana, but he wore a mask. It was known as the Executioner. You might think WrestleMania 1 might as well have been a Portland wrestling show. Don Owen said that Roddy Piper and Playboy Buddy Rose drew more money for him than anyone else ever did. Next up, I put down Brian Adams. I really liked Brian Adams a lot when I was a kid. And he became Crush in the WWF and the WWE. Sadly, all these people I've named so far are dead. Next up, I put down the Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and he just recently passed away. But he was a famous wrestler, too, in Portland wrestling. And he was here for a long time, too. He would go way up high and fly off the top rope. And amazingly, the one person on my list who's still alive, Billy Jack Haynes. if you can believe that. He's had a lot of issues too. But for the report that he's still alive, and we all have disabilities and struggles in our lives, obstacles to overcome, and we do the best that we can. And I think I want to just say, Billy Jack Hines, I hope you're doing fine. And I know you got a lawsuit against the WWE and Vince McMahon, and I wish you whatever successes you need for that, if that's what it should be, is that you win too. And I hope everything comes out right in that whole deal. I'm going to ring the bell one more time. I forgot about one more, though, that I just now thought of, and he's alive too. And that is Raven. Do you remember Raven? Scott Levy? Well, he was known as Scotty the Body when he was here in Portland Wrestling, and he was my very favorite when I was a kid. There were a lot of, it always said it in my ear when it went down to 92nd, and it interrupted me, and I always felt like Vince McMahon in my ear saying, wrap it up, go home with it. I'm not Michael Cole. I can do my own show. But I've lost my train of thought now. Art Barr was really something else, too, from here. He was Beetlejuice, and he was 60 seconds. Thanks, Vince McMahon. Art Barr was the son of Sandy Barr, too. Anyway, there were a lot of very special wrestlers that came through Portland over the years. And I was able to watch a lot of them on the television, and I got to watch a lot of the videos on YouTube. Unfortunately, all the wrestling matches were not recorded by the KPTV because Don Owen wouldn't pay them $25 a week because he didn't think there would ever be a reason to watch the matches again. And that is a shame because I think anyone watching WWE Network would rather watch old Portland wrestling than anything else. That's our show tonight. 10 seconds. Okay, Vince McMahon, I really think you messed a lot up over the last 20 years, McMahon, if you're listening. But thank you for listening. Ring in the bell one more time.